So 2017 sucked. Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of good things that happened in 2017, but globally, I know it has been a really long time since I've made a video. Perhaps the things that I talk about in this video will make that clear, but it's the end of 2017, and that means that it's time for my annual year in review, what I did in 2017. Let's start with January. I started teaching with Theater Scam and the new Scam School of Performing Arts. I was teaching an improv class for kids as well as a YouTube class, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but I talked about that in my last video and it was quite the challenge, but I did my first ever YouTube class. February was super busy. I started teaching one of my private students named Atticus Cohen-Yelle, and I'll link to his channel below. We've been working on his own personal YouTube channel for almost a full year now, and he's doing so well. He has a little base of subscribers and people are loving his content, so check that out down below. As was mentioned in the last video, Tony and I started rehearsing for Love Dub as we were coming up on our premiere, which was happening in March. As we were rehearsing for Love Dub, we performed in the Vino Buono launch party, which was a launch of Vino Buono's first ever season. We were really happy to be a part of this event. It was another small event where we could do a small excerpt of Love Dub. It went over really well. It helped us to create the end product of Love Dub that we did in March. So thank you, Vino Buono. Tony and I traveled to Vancouver to see Mouthpiece, one of his favorite pieces of theater. It's a feminist piece of theater created by two women, and I think it's actually coming here locally, so I'll link that down below. The Canadian Improv Games finals for Vancouver Island happened here in Victoria, and I also worked on a show called an improvised sitcom, where we took photos that were very reminiscent of Friends. We tried a whole new style of sitcom that was actually one of the most challenging styles I think I've ever done. But it was a really good lesson in how sitcoms are created and how that kind of comedy is created. March! Love Dub premiered for the first time ever in its full-length version on March 1st. This was a really great time for us to keep experimenting with Love Dub and what it would eventually become this year, and a really great way to bring on all of our loved ones into the same space and to create this show that is really just about experience and creating together and discovering. So I think that was a really big learning curve for Tony and I as our duo, Nickel Pumpernickel. And at that show, we also announced that we would be going to the Ottawa Fringe Festival in June. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. This was a big month for Nickel Pumpernickel because we actually were the feature set at the Improv Cabaret as well. That was also a learning curve for us, maybe not our most clean performance, but we were able to really learn from that experience of just doing improv on stage. Tony is learning more and more about improv every day, and it's just really fun to be our duo. I love Nickel Pumpernickel, and we are steaming full speed ahead in 2018. And I also opened a show called Much Less Ado About Nothing, which was another adaptation of the Shakespeare classic by Launchpad Productions. My second show with them, or technically my third show with them, but my second show in the castle, and I had a lovely time. I played two characters, pictures here, and I just love working with Launchpad. They're the best people, and I love them forever. Mwah. April! In April, I actually flew back to Ottawa again to go to the Canadian Improv Games National Tournament. This was my second time being at the tournament, but my first time being a volunteer. So some of the things that I did were I taught workshops, I sat on a panel with other improvisers from all across Canada about improv in Canada. I was part of the box team at Nationals, which was super fun with my friend Spencer. I performed in a couple of the mini sets that we were doing for the young improvisers. It was overall a really cool week, very illuminating, and I definitely brought my voice to Nationals as an advocate for marginalized students, for students that are often not heard as much as privileged students within the Canadian Improv Games, as well as in our own organization, because there are things that need to change. And being one of the only people of color at this festival, it was really important to me to stand up and use my voice as one of the only people. And the fact that I was one of the only people and I am a light-skinned person of color this really speaks to the power structures that need to be examined within this organization. So using my voice as much as I need to for now, and hopefully in the future there will be more wonderful people of color in this organization to do this work with me so I can take a step back. Before that, I was actually in Sudbury in April to celebrate my birthday, my 24th birthday, with my grandparents, and that was great, except for the fact that my flight into Sudbury was with Air Canada. Never again. But when I got into Ontario from Victoria, they told me that my flight was delayed. I'm like, okay, great, let's see when my flight is. It was 2 days later. And the next day was my birthday, and I just like completely broke down in the airport, and Air Canada did not help me at all. They basically refused to help me and were blaming me for my own circumstance. So I got on a train. I was on a train all night with this other woman, and we were both headed to Sudbury. It was kind of amazing that I found her, this beautiful woman of color, and we just like cried and got through it, and we got to Sudbury, Ontario. And then when I got back from Ontario, I actually went straight into filming a movie that I worked on with director James Douglas called The Doctor's Case. This was such a cool experience. I got to play a character named Lieutenant Gleason, and I got to have a scene with one of the stars of the film. This was such a cool experience, getting to work with Denise Crosby. If you don't know who she is, I'll link some information down below, but I feel like a couple of Star Trek fans or Walking Dead fans might know who she is. This was just so cool, and I felt so honored to be part of this process and to get back on film. It's been so long since I've done a film project, so thank you, James, for having me, and more details on that coming out next year of when you can see the film. May! It was a little bit of a slower month. I did an improv cabaret with Tony again, which went really well. I voted. I worked Uno Fest, and last video, I was watching it today, the last recap, I was talking about Uno Fest and how I had just previously done a solo set, then I got to watch a bunch of solo performers. Same kind of thing this year, except that I was creating a solo show while this was happening. So quite a different arc of how this year has gone, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. And at the Uno Fest, Tony and I actually met one of his theater heroes, Daniel McIver, and this was really cool to see Tony interact with someone who he respected so much. We talked to him about our work with Nickel Pumpernickel, how we were going to Ottawa Fringe, and it was just really cool to kind of take away that big facade of fame in theater, because it's definitely there, and just chat with other theater artists. And it was really, really cool because Daniel McIver ended up actually donating to our campaign to Love Dub. And that was a pretty big moment for Tony, most certainly, but for me as well, just to see someone you respect so much and see how their work has affected other people and them to have that confidence in you. It's just a really beautiful moment. So thank you, Daniel McIver. June! In June, Tony and I went to the Ottawa Fringe Festival together as Nickel Pumpernickel for the first time. We performed Love Dub, which really went really well. It was a new show than what we had done in March, totally new content, really crafted to work with the audience in new, exciting ways. And I'm ultimately so proud of what we accomplished in Ottawa. We got to speak to marginalization within theater communities. We got to create this bond with some folks in the theater community that I never would have thought imaginable for someone coming in from another city, from being kind of a touring artist. I got to create such wonderful relationships with other women of color in the city of Ottawa who I cannot thank enough for supporting us through this time. The relationships that I gained from that experience is the best part about going to Ottawa Fringe. As a lot of you know, and as a lot of you might have seen my solo show, which I'll talk about later, it didn't go the best for us because we received racist reviews. I'll speak to that in another video that's coming soon. But ultimately, I really got to see the ugly side of Canadian theatre and Canadian theatre criticism and what white people deem to be acceptable to marginalized identities. So, eye-opening, that's for damn sure. And really reinstilled my feeling that I'm having about theater and feeling that I'm having about these communities in which these insular communities that are dominantly white theater artists need to be questioned and need to be broken up. And honestly, the only art that I really want to see right now is by marginalized, POC, trans, non-binary artists. Like, that's all I want to see. That's all I want to see. Of course, it wasn't all bad. While I was there, I taught my first workshop on diversity with the Improv Embassy, who hosted us when we were at the Ottawa Fringe. We like lived with Danny and Chris while we were there, and they opened up their venue for us to perform in. I can't thank the Improv Embassy enough for being such wonderful allies to us during this time. Thank you so much. As well, on the way back to Victoria, we went to Sudbury again, and Tony met my grandma. My Lilang. This was a really big thing for us. My grandma and the Filipino women in my family are the most important link to my culture, to who I am, to who I've become because of them. Tony meeting my grandma after this experience in Ottawa was just the best way to possibly close that experience. July! In July, I actually went back to the legislature to work. This was kind of a weird thing. While we were in Ottawa, I got this email being like, someone quit! Help! Can you be a tour guide? I'm like, maybe. So I learned how to be a tour guide, and I have actually been working there ever since. It's a temporary position, so I'll be there for a little while as a tour guide / parliamentary player. Hello. Paper Street Theatre also put on an improvised Jane Austen, and this was a full remount to a show that we had done years previously, and we did a full version at the Emily Carr House, and this was so fun. I loved it so much, and I think it's going to become a recurring thing every summer, so I can't wait to get my Jane Austen on every summer. As soon as we got back from the Ottawa Fringe, I started writing my solo show, Monica versus the Internet, Tales of a Social Justice Warrior. I wrote this with Ann-Bernice Thomas, who is my director, who I'm going to just like boast about for the rest of this video probably, but we started writing in July and we kept writing until the show. August. August is when I moved into this place. The reason that we haven't really talked about it very much is that we were really busy when we moved out. Tony and I found this place and we're just like overwhelmed with joy. We moved in and I just started rehearsing every single day for Monica versus the Internet, so we didn't really have time to like welcome people in and show them we had a new place. But I live here now. This is our room and I love it. It looks a little plain behind me, but you know, there's stuff. And in August we opened Monica versus the Internet. I tried so hard to speed through the rest of the year because this is ultimately one of the biggest things I've ever done in my life. This was my first ever solo show. This was my first co-creation with Ann-Bernice Thomas and the first time being directed by her. This was a culmination of such a long time's worth of content into a show. So my solo show was about my internet comments that I receive on this channel and showing it and sharing it with the world for the first time. Really bringing together my worlds of theater and internet and feminism and social justice and exploding that out and exploring what the hell my life is about. So it was basically an exploration of my life. It still feels like a blur. I don't think I've had the proper time to like process it because so many other things have happened since, but I really hope to put on the show again. And I think my audiences were very illuminated by what I had to say and what Ann-Bernice and I had to say. And I'm so proud because I know for a fact that we brought new audiences to the Fringe Festival, new marginalized POC audiences who don't usually feel welcome or safe in Fringe festivals, which I think is another one of the biggest discoveries, I suppose, that I've felt this year, is that I always knew that it was there, but I really got to see it play out in a new way by doing a solo show or going to another Fringe festival, is that POC artists are just not welcomed into these spaces at all. And I wanted to change that, and Bernice and I wanted to change that, so we made this show that wasn't centering white people. And POC folks came, and they supported us, and I, again, very similar to how I felt in Ottawa, is that like the relationships and newly formed friendships that I've created because of these shows that challenge social norms and white supremacy, I am so overwhelmed and grateful for these relationships that have started in my life, and that is what propels me to want to go forward and do more of this work forever and always. September, we closed Monica versus the Internet, and there was a lot of things that happened during the festival. With all the positivity, there was still a shit ton of racism going on, but I got 2 wonderful reviews that were not racist at all. Huh. It's funny, you'd think that that would be a given. Nope. And I got a lot of support, but I did also get a lot of backlash in Victoria, and people are fucking racist, so like... But that being said, it came up to Pick of the Fringe night, and Monica vs. the Internet, Tales of a Social Justice Warrior, actually won an award, a Pick of the Fringe award for Bravest Show. We had multiple feelings about the award. We were so happy to be recognized for the work we were doing and for the diversity that we were bringing to the festival. But it was also kind of funny because in the show we talked about this idea of bravery and how people of color and women of color and any marginalized person really are kind of given this label of brave because they dare speak out about their marginalization. And we sort of unpacked that in the show and said that we don't really want to be called brave because it takes away the responsibility of privileged people, in the fact that like I shouldn't have to be brave by talking about what my life is like. Privileged people should stand up and do the work too. So while it was incredible to be recognized, there was also this sort of irony that came with it, and I mean that maybe that's the nature of doing art that is different and art that makes people think, but regardless, we still got a Pick of the Fringe award, and that is really, really special to me. Thank you, Ann-Bernice, for being in my life and for being the most wonderful director and co-creator. I could not have done any of this without you. Mwah, I love you. The rest of September was really a really bad month for me. It was kind of a write-off month because my dog, Harriet, passed away. And I haven't really said anything on my social media about that yet because it's been really hard. She is my best friend. She will always be my best friend and my baby, and I miss her every day. But September was really, really hard for me, and I just kind of fell off the face of the earth, and I think I needed to do that after the solo show. But I'm really glad that I took the time that I needed to self-care, and I'm still doing that. I think the rest of this year was predominantly self-care with everything that happened. October! October was pretty low-key, except for the fact that I was part of Ann-Bernice's Disobedient Women project. There was a video project that I'll link to down below, and I had so much fun being part of this project. The end product is incredible. The video and the women that are participating in it is just like out of this world. So please go and watch that below. It was one of the proudest moments, I think, of 2017 for me. November! I saw a lot of amazing work. I saw Space Hippo, which was a Pick of the Fringe show that came here a couple of years ago. I saw 2 new works by one of my favorite playwrights, Marie Clements. The Road Forward, which is her new musical documentary, as well as Missing, her new opera. Both were completely different from one another, but so incredible to watch her work. She is one of my favorite artists, And I actually got to meet her after seeing her film, and I was like in a total daze. I totally freaked out and was like, oh my god, you're the reason that you helped me leave theater school. And she was like, cool. So I think I was like a little uncool in that moment, but it was one of the coolest things to meet her and see her face to face. And I also did a show, an improvised Agatha Christie, which was a Murder on Paper Street, which was an improvised murder mystery. This is one of the coolest shows I've ever done. The character work, the unraveling of the mystery, because the improvisers didn't know who the murderer was going to be, and we found out later, and it was just such a fun show. The costumes were beautiful. I loved it. Finally, December! Grimace! That's my Grimace tree! I worked on an improvised zombie movie, Zemus, or Zedmus, depending on how you feel. And that was such a fun style. I love zombie films, I've realized. I never thought I would be the person to say that, but I love The Walking Dead so much and zombie movies, and so this was a really cool style to explore the gritty human nature of what happens during an apocalypse. And finally, I'm going to see it again in the new year, but I saw The Last Jedi, and my next video is going to be talking about The Last Jedi, what I thought, how much I cried, spoiler alert, 3 times, and just how much The Last Jedi has given me half of the strength I think that I need to go into 2018. 2017 was a fucking shitty year. So many bad things happened, and the state of the world right now just feels so precarious and fucked up and shitty, but 2018, more than ever, I've never felt this same feeling of like, it's a new year and I'm going to smash it. But like, honestly, I feel like I need to with this new year. 2018 has to be another year of resistance, of feminist politics, of fucking with white supremacy in theater, of not allowing fucking shitty, privileged white folks to get in the way of what I want to do. And I am not going to let people get in the way. This is a year of reinvention and transformation and growth, and I am really, really excited. To get back to what I was talking about, make sure to check back here for my video on The Last Jedi really, really soon. I know that I have not been putting out a lot of videos, probably because of all the things I've been doing this year, but this gives me a lot of joy and gives me a space to be myself, so I think that I'm going to be coming back, maybe not as regularly as I want to be, but I'm going to be putting out more videos than I did this year. Thank you so much for watching. This is everything I did in 2017, or at least the highlights of what I did in this year. Special thank you to Tony Adams for being the most incredible, supportive person in my life who I could not have made it through this year without. And to Ann-Bernice Thomas, who is the most wonderful collaborator and creator, and we'll be working together more in 2018. I can't wait to share with you all what the plan is for 2018. I have no idea at this point, but we'll see what happens. If you like, you can subscribe and go there and da-da-da-da-da. It's been so long since I've done that. And I will see you all in 2018. May the force be with us. Okay, bye!